All right, here we go. Factor by grouping. So what you're going to find in this, remember we were doing some factor by grouping as one of the methods to solve a quadratic expression. And that's what we did on Tuesday when we saw a little bit of that on review. So if you want to use that same mindset, you got that. But here it is. This is factor by grouping, whether you like to use the factor by grouping method on a regular quadratic or you use the slide and divide method. We're going to focus on the factor by grouping. So you're going to see a lot of similarities. So if you've been using the factor by grouping idea, look for it here on this one as well. All right, here's what I'm going to have you guys work on here is factor by grouping. So here's how you're going to know that we want to do factor by grouping is you're going to see four terms here. Right, so two terms and two other terms. We're going to group these terms, right? So this is kind of what we did when we were doing the other piece. This is kind of the fallout piece of it. All right, so here's what we do, factor by grouping. Number one, group the first two, group the second two. What you need to do is make sure that they are all in order. So you got power 3, power 2, power 1, and no power, right? That's what we need to see. All right, so on this one here, the first one, grouping, we're looking for greatest common factor that comes from 5n cubed and 35n squared. So I'm pretty sure I could pull a 5 and an n squared out of both of them, but that's it, right? So now if I took 5n cubed divided by 5n squared, it's going to leave me with n. If I took a positive 35 n squared and divided by 5n, it's going to leave me with a positive 7. Okay, so there you go. There's the first thing. Let me get rid of some of this wonky stuff here. Okay, good. All right, here we go. Next one. Let's do this in a different color. No, let's do it in blue. Okay, here. So I'm looking at negative 6n and negative 42. Here's one of the first things that we need to know. If the first part of this group is negative, go ahead and pull a negative out with it, a negative. Now let's look at 6 and 42. Is there a common factor? Absolutely, there's a 6. And then n and no n, so there's no n common factor. So now if I divide negative 6n by negative 6, it leaves me with a positive n. If I divide negative 42 by a negative 6, it leaves me with a positive 7. All right, so factor by grouping. So we group the first two, group the second two, greatest common factors out of each. Now, here's what you need to do is just check your parentheses. They need to be exactly the same. If they're exactly the same, then we're on the right track. Okay, so yes and yes. Yes, we're on the right track. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take everything that's outside of the parentheses and group it together. Right, so it's going to go 5n squared minus 6. And then we're going to take, since these are the same, we're just going to write it once, n plus 7. And we're good. And that's it right there. That is factor by grouping. Now, technically, you want to take a look at the first parenthesis here and make sure it does not factor any further. The good news is it doesn't. It just doesn't factor any further. So this is it. Guys, we got it. Factor by grouping. All right. Number 2, if you need to, pause it here, write this on your paper, and factor by grouping. I want to see what you do. I want to see you get the answer. Okay, so pause it there if you need to take your time to do that because you're going to upload that. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Number 3, factor by grouping. Here we go. It's already in order. 3, 2, 1, none. Group the first two chunks. Group the second two chunks. Okay. What is common in 3a cubed and a squared? It looks only like an a squared is going to be common. So it's going to leave me at 3a plus 1. Yes, there has to be some. A squared divided by a squared is 1. So that's there. Okay, let's look at the next one. 18a and 6. And this is positive. So we're going to pull out a positive value. Let's pull out a positive 6. That's going to leave me with 3a plus 6 divided by 6 is 1. How do we know if we're on the right track? Check. Are my parentheses the same? If the answer is yes, you got it, on the right track. Okay, put everything that's outside together in their own, a squared plus 6. And then just write one of these, since they're the same, 3a plus 1. And you got it. Technically, what am I looking for? Does it factor any further? This one doesn't right now. Right now, we're really focused on the grouping part. Okay, number 4. It's on you. If you need to, pause it right here. Go ahead and work it all the way out and get me an answer. All right, all the way to an answer. And then you'll upload that with your number 2. Okay, here we go. Number 5. Let's do this one together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, no power. We're at 4 terms here, right? So group the first 2 terms, group the second 2 terms. Okay, I need everything that's greatest common in between these two. I can't pull a 9 out, but it looks like they're both factors of 3, and they both have at least a v squared in them. Okay, so now 9v cubed divided by 3v squared, that's going to leave me a 3v. 24 divided by 3 is 8. V squared, so that the v squareds factor each other out there. So that's what I end up with there. Okay. On the second part here, 15 and 40, they both have factors of 5. Yeah, 5. Now the first term is negative, so what am I going to do? I'm going to also pull out a negative with that 5. And then they don't have v's, so 3v, and then positive 40 divided by negative 5, that's a negative 8. Am I on the right track? Do a quick assessment. Are the insides the same? Okay, then we're on the right track. So put everything that's outside, 3v squared minus 5, and then write one of the 2. And we're good. We got it. All right, that's number 5. Let's move on to number 6. This one, I need you to do it. So pause it here so you can write it down and work it out, and then you'll end up uploading number 6 to the Google Classroom. Okay, that's it. That's factor by grouping, guys. And again, we're working on factor by grouping with 4 terms, right? So if you see only 3 terms, don't try to do the factor by grouping unless you're doing the specialized quadratic thing that we did on Tuesday. But otherwise, factor by grouping, 4 terms, make sure they're in order. First 2, second 2, continue on.